This is Adam Marburger, and this is Humans That Build. Real conversations with real people, not just about what they've built in the world, but what had to be built inside them first. No hype, no shortcuts, just humans doing the work. Humans That Build, real people, real work. Welcome to another episode of Humans That Build. I'm your host, Adam Marburger. This show is designed to share interesting stories from interesting people, those making an impact, humans that are building. So today I've got a special guest. I'm here with Caleb Thurman. I'm going to go ahead and give him the proper introduction here. So he is the owner of Sunrise Moving and Packing, a $10 million national moving company built from the ground up through grit, systems, and focus on people. Welcome to Humans That Build. Caleb, how are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me. Happy to be on here.
Let's get, here, as I'm reading your intro, let's talk a little bit about grit and systems. First of all, how important are systems in any business?
Oh, I think systems just pretty much define your business. You know what I mean? Everybody needs a fine-tuned system to operate well. And, I look at my business like, we only have so many months to get it right because summertime's kind of our bread and butter. So as a moving company owner, it's kind of like an ice cream shop a little bit. So like in the wintertime, business is a little slow, but then come summertime, you got to have a well-oiled machine ready to go because you're making all your money, in a short span. We're talking like, sometimes 5 to 6 months. So systems, you got to be able to delegate, and you got to have systems in place in order to scale your business and make sure everybody's doing their role effectively.
Yeah, so I'm going to back this up a little bit. So I want to know everything about Sunrise Moving. And, I see, just watching you guys online, I see you guys growing. What got you into that business? Like, were you, always had dreams and aspirations growing up of having a moving company, or how did you come about this business?
Yeah, actually, surprisingly, I never would have imagined I would have owned a moving company. But I was actually, I started the business in around 2021. Before that, I was selling insurance. So I had like my property and casualty license. I sold life insurance. I was doing that for a little bit. And I worked for a really good agent that I had the blessing to work for down in Creveport, Missouri. He was a great mentor for me. And he taught me just a lot of leadership skills there, accountability skills there. And he was pretty tough on me. But, when I first worked for him, I didn't really understand how to take in that tough love. He kind of went through the numbers a lot with me. And, he was a little bit of a perfectionist when it came to his business. And we kind of clashed a little bit because I wasn't a very coachable person, I realized. I was not very coachable. I wanted to do things my way. And, I was producing a lot of good results, but I was having a hard time dealing with change. But it ended up with, I was writing, 90 to 100 policies a month, selling, property, casualty, life and health. And I ended up stopped working for him because we just didn't see eye to eye. I wanted to eventually get into agency. I wanted to become a State Farm agent. That was kind of my dream around that time. And from there, I went to work for another agent. I went and worked for American Family, actually. So I was selling insurance for them, but it's kind of weird how it worked because my old agent, I had just sold so much insurance that I was like almost sold myself out of selling insurance. I had nothing left in me to sell anymore. I was like, wow, man, it's time for a change. Like, I'm kind of getting a little burnt out on this industry. And it's really weird how God works because one day I was sitting in this office and I got a call from my brother who lives in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. And he says, hey, Caleb, I just moved recently and I got on U-Haul's website and I rented a U-Haul and it asked me if I needed moving help. And I ended up hiring moving help through their website, which is just contracted labor that you could hire through U-Haul's website when you rent a truck yourself. So it's called like a do-it-yourself move. And essentially what ended up happening was he's like, I think you and my brother Josh, who was currently surprisingly actually unemployed at the time, he's like, I think you guys would be really good at this. Like, He's like, I mean, I definitely see it's a niche market, and I think it's something that, you guys could take it and run with it. So I'm sitting here and I'm in, this agent's office that I'm working for, and I get on this website, I fill out all the information to be a U-Haul contractor on their website, and then about a week or 2 weeks go by and we get our first job booking. And it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. I got an appointment at 11, and I got to figure out how to get to this job and tell the agent that I'm working for, hey man, I got to leave work and I got to go do this move. So, and then I got to call my brother up, kind of the whole rally the troops thing, and we get out to, so I ended up telling the agent, I was like, the truth, you just got to be truthful at the end of the day. I just flat out told him, I was like, hey man, I'm going to try this moving thing, and I just kind of took a risk. I put all my marbles in, and I just kind of went for it, and I was like, I'm going to go try this. And he was a cool enough guy to where he's like, hey man, go try this, and if this doesn't work, like, you're good enough at your job to where you'll still have a job here. So he kind of encouraged me in a way to just like go do it. So me and my brother, we go out there, we do it. We both had moving experience in the past. I had worked for a lot of national brand companies, 2 men in a truck, college hunk, stuff like that. But again, it was all like summer jobs every time I had it. Never envisioned what I would have owned a moving company. But we get out there, we do a job on U-Haul, and we get a 5-star review for the customer, and then we kind of figure out what their algorithm is. So like, their algorithm was they look at your last 10 reviews. That's how you rank at the top. So, and I had never made any kind of real money in my life. I'll tell you, like, selling insurance was a fun business, but you got to grind like nobody can imagine in that business. It's cold call after cold call, and you're not making a ton of money. So every day is a grind. It's a struggle. You're getting hung up on nonstop. You got to keep a positive mindset, and yeah, it can be pretty challenging. So
the insurance industry is very, very difficult. Especially too, you weren't the actual principal agent, right? So you're working your tail off for somebody else to make a
yes.
bigger cut, and you're the reason they're successful at some level. I've got a buddy that had that same scenario. I've got a lot to unpack about, what got you to a $10 million evaluation. But before we do that, it's a lot of hard work. I mean, moving. First of all, explain to everybody who your company is. What do you do? Where do you operate? Let's start there. I got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So let's start with that, okay?
Yeah, so essentially Sunrise Moving, I mean, we're a residential and commercial moving company. So, we come to your house, we'll pack all your stuff up that's stowed away in your cabinets, place them into boxes, label all your boxes. We'll come out the next day, we'll move all your furniture, make sure it's nice, pristinely wrapped, and get you to your new destination without any kind of damages. That's what we pride ourselves on, is the quality of service that we bring to our customers first and foremost. I think a lot of people get kind of wrapped up in the volume game at the end of the day. We've always focused on the quality. It's just make sure the customer is having the best experience out there. Because let's face it, I mean, if you hire the wrong moving company, it could really cost you a lot of money. Like with vinyl plank flooring, for example, if you scratch one piece of that flooring, you got to tear it up from the wall all the way to that specific piece. A lot of times you can't buff the scratch out. You can't just replace that one piece. So, and this could be the difference between you and your competition as far as the cost. The customer calls in, they're getting a quote, they're like, oh, well, this company was $200 cheaper. Well, if this company damages your floor, you could be talking, a couple $1,000s more expensive at the end of the day. So, just focusing on that quality reputation. But to answer your question, we're in 5 different states. We're trying to become a national brand. Our goal is to get to 20 markets. So right now we're in St. Louis, Kansas City, Phoenix, Houston, and Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. So those are our 5 locations currently.
Wow. That it seems so. Getting into this business, I mean, that's tough work, right? I mean, where do you find your employees? Where's the best place to find young men and women that want to be a part of your organization?
Yeah, a lot of times just college campuses. You can do internships and things like that. We got a lot of good relationships with some local colleges, kids looking for summer jobs. Also, a lot of word of mouth are really good employees. 9 times out of 10, if somebody's a pretty outstanding person, generally they know other people that are outstanding. Like, they always say like your net worth is your net, or your network is your net worth, right? So it's
I
like
can do that. Yeah,
usually
absolutely.
good people know other good people. So I'm always coming to my employees that I see are exceptional, and I'm like, hey man, like surely you know other people like you. I mean, and usually we get a lot of referrals. We have a pretty cool, referral program when it comes to talent acquisition. We get a lot of guys through Indeed too. We send them through a pretty rigorous like training system. I know it's just moving furniture, but at the end of the day, it's we want to be the best at what we do. So we invest a lot of time and resources into it.
I love it. I've got a random, as we're talking, I just got this random thought, or I got a question. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. What percentage of people hire a company like yours to move opposed to doing it themselves?
Um, that's actually a really good question. I think it just kind of depends on the economic conditions. I think we're
Yeah.
at kind of a weird time right now where the economy is squeezing people a little bit. So there is some advantages into doing like a do-it-yourself move, just because it can be a little bit more cost advantageous. But there's also a huge risk factor associated with that, though. You know what I mean? Like, are you willing to go out and replace, $1,000 dresser if you're
Yeah.
unqualified to move it and you damage it, or let's say you're home, you're getting ready to close on your house, and then the new buyer is walking through, right? And they're like, "Dang, Adam, you just did a really bad job at moving your stuff. Like I'm seeing scratches that weren't here on the initial walkthrough. I'm seeing holes in the wall." And then it's like, that's where being cheap will kind of get you in trouble. So that's where we like preach the quality to our customers. Generally speaking, though, we're typically like the average move does cost, I would say, around like 1,000 to 1,500 bucks. So there's a lot of different ways that you could look at things. You could say, hey, I'm going to try to do this myself and try to get it done cheaper. But a lot of times, what you'll end up finding out is it actually costs you more money because you can't pay for experience. Like it's not something that you just snap your fingers and get.
And time. I mean, think about the time you're saving. I'll tell you what, I've done moves with help and without help. I'll tell you, I've had, it's been a couple times I've had the company come in like you've talked about. And going forward, I promise I'll call you. But just having somebody come in and wrapping everything up and organizing and getting it ready to go, opposed to doing it yourself, is a huge difference. For me personally, it's the time factor. I'd rather have somebody else come and knock it out for me. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. Yeah, I mean, from an efficiency standpoint, a lot of the people we do business with, they're busy people. We do a ton of work out in like St. Charles County, here in our St. Louis market. And, there's successful individuals everywhere, but there's a lot of busy people out there. So, I mean, they definitely see
let's
the
let's go
value.
back. Let's go back in time. You're a fellow entrepreneur to entrepreneur here. Let's go back in time because you guys seem to be doing really well right now, putting up some big numbers. I'm sure it wasn't always that way. Okay. Let's talk me through startup phase year one. What did that look like? I always love to ask people what some of their favorite failures were. What did you learn? What can you share to help the younger generation? So looking back at year one in business, let's talk through that a little bit.
Oh man, I
What did
got
that
the
look like?
perfect one for you, man. I made so many mistakes. I don't even know how I'm here right now. Just to be transparent with you. One of my mentors said, he's like, worry about the legal stuff after the fact. Like, get into business and figure out how to make money first. You could always figure out the legal stuff later. I'm not saying go out and get in trouble. That's not what I'm saying here. But I'm saying, there's a lot in business when you first start out that you don't realize that you need, even when it comes to accounting, when it comes to taxes. Like our first couple of years, I'll be transparent with you. I never made as much money that I made moving in any other line of business that I was ever in. I mean, this was my first business I also ever ran. So there was so many things that I just didn't have the answers to that I had to figure out the hard way. I mean, I didn't even pay taxes till like 3 years into my business. We were like behind on taxes and stuff just because I didn't even realize the implications of like all the things that you kind of needed to have in order to kind of start the business. But then again, I was fortunate that I took the leap of faith because we would never be where we are at today. And that's, a $10 million company had I been so focused on, all these other things. It's like analysis paralysis.
Yeah. So when you look back, what was your biggest setback when you're starting this company, trying to get it off the ground? You got to generate revenue, and
Mm,
then obviously,
that's a
I
good
can
one.
relate. Obviously, you got to pay your taxes for everybody listening.
Absolutely.
We
Pay
don't,
your taxes.
we don't
Don't
want
be
to
like
pay
Caleb.
taxes. My mentor, and he's kind of he drilled this in me. He's like, do what you got to do to make the deal. Figure out how to make the deal. Figure out how to generate revenue, and then we can
Yeah.
worry about the details later. And there's a reason I operate. My biggest company is Scent Dealer Services, which I'm sporting the shirt today. I operate on an EOS entrepreneur operating system, so out of the book traction. So it's everything's very dialed in, and we have systems and
I've read the
levers and
book. It's a
process.
great book.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book, but it wasn't always that way for me because I've got an integrator now. I'm the visionary. I've got an integrator, but in
Yeah.
the past, it wasn't that way. It was like, let's throw everything against the wall, but it could be costly. So, looking at that, what do you think your biggest setback? Knowing now that you're kind of dialed in, you believe in systems. I started our talk today talking about processes and
I
systems.
would just say like
What was
delegation, just not delegating things sooner, thinking that I have to control absolutely everything inside of the business. Like the fact of the matter is there's people out here that can, believe it or not, can do a better job than like you or me can do at certain things. And I didn't think anybody on this planet could ever outsell me. I'll just be transparent because I just came from a cutthroat agent. I knew what it was like to have to farm leads and cold call people, and it was like getting hung up on nonstop, nonstop. How do I keep somebody's attention within the first like 10 seconds and then keep them engaged into something they weren't even ready for? Like, I had this ability to just turn like a 10-second intro into a 40-minute phone call. And
yeah,
I just, just kind of being not arrogant, but just thinking that I have to do every single thing in my business at first, I think was a big setback in terms of like scalability. I think I could have gotten to I think we could have gotten to where we're at probably 3 to 4 times as fast and been even more successful. Had we had the processes, trusted the process, and delegated things a little bit sooner. You know,
what happened though, Caleb? What happened to make you change? So you admittedly,
volume happened. I couldn't do it. I was like, there's just too many phone calls coming in. Obviously, I can't answer every call. I was literally carrying a couch. I was out on a move and my phone was ringing. I was trying to move somebody and I was trying to do a sales call at the exact same time. By the way, I closed the customer, but we could talk about
I can see that.
but
I can see that.
I'm literally carrying a couch and I'm talking to somebody at the same time. And then I got our customer, they're looking at me like, "What are you doing, dude?" Like I always perceived it as like they were mad at me because they're paying by the hour, but really they just thought it was impressive. Just, but I was sitting there in that moment. I'm like, dude, it's time to scale. You have to delegate. And I remember I hired my very first sales rep, and she was a little rough around the edges at first, and like training her was a little tough, but she had a lot of grit. She had like so much grit, and she would just keep she was super responsive, like pick the phone up really quick. She was very coachable, would always fight for sales. And it was like in that moment, I knew like, dude, I don't actually have to do all the work in this company. There's like people that I could hire and train or people that are just better at me in certain areas. And I think that was the biggest lesson that I learned is like kind of letting control can be a good thing, but it can also be a detrimental thing as well. When you want to control absolutely everything around you, then sometimes
Yeah,
it could kind of hinder your growth a little bit. You can't do every
yeah,
job in your company. You can't play every role.
you're right. I mean, that's and for those listening, maybe you're a solopreneur, maybe you're just starting out, or maybe maybe you're somebody that needs to hire somebody and you're afraid to give up income. Because for me too, it's like when you scale, you're giving up revenue, right? So there's that part of it, but then there's the ego part of it too. But you can't grow something without people. And you said something that was very profound. You said that, believe it or not, there are people out there better than you, people out better, smarter than you, and that is a fact. I think as a business owner, the goal is to get your business to work for you and not you work for the business. And I think that's ultimately the goal. So let's talk about this. How difficult was it the first, say, 60, 90 days when you said, all right, first of all, you were self-aware enough to know because of volume. Volume made you pivot, made you open up your mind to bring it on people. How difficult was it at first, though, knowing that, like, I'm going to trust you with this and that? Well, Talk through that phase.
Yeah, I mean, it was really difficult to relinquish that control and kind of trust somebody to do that position, especially considering like I was still out on the trucks moving the furniture. But there was also a part of it that was a little nice. I'm not gonna lie. I was no longer carrying that couch and trying to take a sales call at the same time, so there was a bit of relief as well. At first, it was definitely a little bit of a change because I still had it in my mind. My ego was like blocking my growth. I was like, in my mind I was like, oh, there's nobody that could sell better than me, or oh, I'm spending money here and this is more money that we could be making as a company, but now I have to spend it on this person who's not doing this job as good as me. But then I soon learned, I was like, when I looked at the numbers, tracked the numbers too, I mean, I could see like she was booking just as much as me. I mean, the conversations are recorded. I'd go back and listen to some of the calls. She was doing everything that I asked her. She was following it to a T, like following the script. So at the end of the day, it was a prime example of like me trying to control the situation to the extent to where it was like hindering my growth.
Wow. Yeah, I can remember like yesterday whenever I relinquished my day-to-day duties at Ascent. The first like month I was scratching my head. I really didn't know what to do. Like I always have leads and I'm always working leads and I'm always doing social and I've always got little, emails to check, right? But I was in the day-to-day. Like I was responsible for everything. But now looking back, I'm working on bigger stuff. We're scaling at a higher level because we're doing bigger things now. I can do things that are creative. I can do things to position us to get us down the road faster. It's
There was a
different
lot of
work.
pressure for me too because I mean I was living in a shotgun style apartment when all this was going down. Like this was a 300 square foot apartment that me and my wife were renting from her grandparents for like $300 or $400 a month. I had my first daughter on the way, Gabrielle. So I mean the pressure was immense on me. Like I had to get it right, So it was even harder for me to pass that baton over and relinquish that control to somebody, like that because I was like, dude, like I have so much pressure on me. But I mean, the old saying is like pressure creates diamonds, and like I just think the biggest thing is you just have to be consistent whatever you do. Like you don't have to be the best at what you do, but if you show up every single day, like there's one thing that's guaranteed to happen, and I mean you're gonna get better. It's inevitable. Like so that's
Amen. Pressure is a privilege. Let's talk about you a little bit. So you're a successful entrepreneur. I noticed trends, common denominators, common themes with high super achievers. So what does your morning look like? Tell me what a normal day of Caleb Thurman looks like. Curious.
Yeah. So I typically get up at 5 a.m. The first thing I do when I start my day out is there's this thing, it's called a 365-day Bible recap by Tara Leanne Cobb. I definitely recommend you checking it out. It's when you eat an elephant, you eat it one bite at a time. It's a great way to dive into the Bible. But I do that. It's small portions. I'll read like 3 chapters at a time, and then I'll just do a reflection of what I read, what it means to me. And I think putting God first in my day has really shaped a lot of my success. So that's the very first thing I start my day out with is reading the Bible, studying the Bible, praying. And then from there, usually I'm doing all the household chores because my wife is also an entrepreneur and she gets up even earlier than I do. She starts training people at 4 in the morning. So I'm usually responsible for the kids' routine in the morning. So I'll do the dishes, I'll do the laundry, I'll clean up anything that needs to be cleaned. I'll make sure the kids eat good. It's important that your kids eat good quality food. And so I'll make them their food. I'll write out the things that need to get done after I eat my breakfast throughout the day. High priority task, the lowest priority task. And then after that's done, the next thing I do is I usually always go get my workout in. So I think the two biggest things that kind of shape my day routine wise is my relationship with God, and then making sure I get my workout in. I feel like if I do those 2 things, I impact the people around me, more deeply than if I didn't do those things. So
I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Be serving. You say it all the time. Like be serving to the people around you. I think that's the greatest thing that we can do as people. Like at the end of the day, all my accolades, accomplishments, they mean nothing. I'm just a steward of God's resources at the end of the day. I don't control none of this. So the more lives I could change and the more I could do to advance the kingdom of God and help other people, the more that impacts me and gives me a feeling of, passion and like I'm on the right path. So
Yeah, I mean, there is. I love what you just said. There's a level of selfishness that comes along with serving others too, because it makes you feel really good when you see others do good. Like, and it's cool. It's like when you grow somebody, you're pouring into somebody, and you're mentoring somebody, and you see them continue to grow and make bigger impact, bigger impact. It's like that feels freaking awesome, man. There's nothing better than that. There's nothing better than like here for jujitsu. I train jujitsu with you. Like when I teach things and I see individuals pick up on those things and then eventually use those things against me, like that is the most humbling, awesome thing in the world. Kind of sucks sometimes, but it's also awesome sometimes. So
awesome.
I'm gonna switch gears. When things get tough, like entrepreneurship, a lot of people a lot of people like to talk about business and entrepreneurship, but I mean, startups are difficult. Making it past year one, starting a business takes courage. Okay. Just the idea of getting off the couch, getting into the business, starting it, leaving a position that maybe you're somebody that worked for an insurance agent for years and just decided to say, I'm doing this myself. It takes an act of courage to start a business, number one. Getting through year number one is also difficult. Making it to year 4 or 5, really, really difficult to do. Okay. So as an entrepreneur that's made it this far, it's not all unicorns and rainbows. Sometimes it rains. So what happens? How do you deal with the seasons that are tough? What gets you through? What advice could you give somebody out there that's an entrepreneur that's maybe in a season right now where it could be financial distress, it could be a personnel scenario, it could be the market's soft. How do you get through situations like that, and what advice would you give others?
I just always circle back to the reason that you started. Like, there's definitely a reason that you took the risk and you started the company that you were doing. And I think we're all going to deal with adversity in life. And I think like you said, the trials and tribulations are going to happen. But I think that's where we that's where we need to double down on ourselves. Because generally speaking, like, when you face those times and you get through those times, you get like a million times better, So the biggest thing that I do, like I said, and I know it could sound a little cliche to some people, but it all circles back to faith for me. Like, understanding that, like, I don't control everything. If it's not in my hands, I give it to God and I ask God to, take care of this for me. I pray about it. And 9 times out of 10, he always delivers. That's the first most important thing, but also just keeping a positive mindset. Like, you're the most dangerous when you're constantly sharpening the saw. Like for me, for example, like business is tough all the time, but like that's why I go to jiu-jitsu. That's why I exercise. That's why I do things to constantly work on my self-development. That way, when those hard times do come, I'm prepared for them. Like David Goggins says, he's like, I don't know when the opportunity's coming. No, there's not like a crystal ball. I can't pull it out and forecast in the future and see when I'm going to have a problem. But I'm training today to make sure when that problem happens, I'm prepared to take it on. So that's really what it boils down to is, just circling back to why you started, trusting yourself, trusting the business that you have gotten up to this point. I mean, dude, I'll tell you, I deal with problems with Google all the time in my business. They've suspended my Google listing a multitude of times.
Brutal.
And like, I'm talking, you can't do anything with Google. Like, you can't call them on the phone. You have to email them, and then it takes somebody 3 weeks to email you back. I've had situations in my business where my Google listing's been suspended for like a month at a time, and that was my only source of revenue. Like, moves were not coming in for a whole month. And I'm sitting here scratching my head like, what are me and my family going to do? What did I do to deserve this? Like, don't ever victimize yourself, though. Find a solution is another big thing, too. Like, don't ever get in the habit of saying, why me? Why this? Why these circumstances? Instead, figure out a different alternative solution And like for me, it was going into attack mode. I was like, okay, well, I'll just advertise on Facebook. I'll do Facebook ads. I'll start getting in front of a camera. I'll start talking more. Like, I think the minute you put yourself in a box and you put like these walls around yourself is the minute that you can kind of become a victim to yourself. And I think that's the worst thing you can do is when you deal with those tough obstacles is kind of like just victimizing yourself and say, I don't know why it's me in this situation. Like work towards a solution.
Victim mindset.
Yeah.
There's things I talk about a lot. Approval addiction and victim mindset, it's a disease, and a lot of people are trapped in it. There's so much of the human population that lives in a woe is me mindset. They're dependent on others. They're dependent on what the government says, or they're so stuck in their way. And if the world is not fair, it's the woe. Those individuals I can't spend any of my time with because it just brings me down. And I'm sure as an entrepreneur you can relate to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You said something that I think everybody needs to understand, or we should just kind of piggyback off of. You're talking about doing things that kind of suck and training and jujitsu. Like I use that as an example. I was in my mastermind this morning. There's 30 entrepreneurs in a call we do once a week. And our coach Danelle asked us, what is one thing that has really drastically, I don't have my notes, what drastically impacted our business this year? What is something that we've done, or what is one thing that's really helped us in our business this first quarter? And for me, it was an easy answer, and it was jujitsu. Getting back to training more jujitsu, getting more passionate about coaching jujitsu. Because here's the thing, and I'll use you as an example. I don't need to stroke your ego. You're a young, very big, strong animal to grapple with. And there's a few others in the gym that are similar. You guys are very strong and tough. I'm a lot older than you guys. So when I leave the gym at night, I'm like, I earned my dinner tonight. Like doing something that sucks. When you do something that sucks and you do it repeatedly, something that sucks, that's difficult, it makes life easier. It's crazy to think about it too like that. Like regardless, it could be playing the violin or the piano or being a marathon runner or being a champion pickleball player. I don't know what it is. I like when I'm looking to hire somebody, I'm looking to do life with somebody, I'm looking for somebody that likes hobbies like that are difficult, because it really sparks creativity. It helps you in your vocation. It doesn't just help you in your vocation. I would bet that you probably are a better father and a better spouse because of your training regimen. Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely. No, I mean, without a question. You know what I mean? It's there's just something that happens when you exercise. I mean, science proves it time and time again, like the amount of endorphins, serotonin it releases in your brain. I mean, I'll tell you what, even when I was like actively on the phones doing sales, like I think my close rate would probably increase at least by like 30 to 40% when I got a workout versus the days that I didn't get a workout in. There's just a certain type of energy that comes with it. It's like it's funny because a lot of people are like, I don't work out because I don't have the energy. And it's actually the exact opposite. You don't have the energy because you don't work out. Like you have to you have to go to the gym and you have to do things, and sometimes it sucks at first, and you just got to get through those first couple hard weeks, but you feel like a brand new person on the other side. So
yeah, amen to that. That is so true. The best medicine is some clean food and going to the gym. And two, it's not working out. You don't necessarily have to go to the gym, but you got to work out. I was talking to Steve McKinney, my pastor, the other day. We were talking about this. Like just going, he's in such great shape too. I had him on the show recently. Every single night after dinner, him and his wife walk for 30 minutes. They just, a 30-minute walk every single day keeps him in great shape.
Absolutely.
I would love to see the human population come into, more of us. You can just go for a walk. You don't need to be a marathon.
Yeah, I mean, it's like same thing with weightlifting, Like I don't weightlift to be the best bodybuilder that existed. Like I'm not trying to go out here and get a Mr. Olympia and beat Chris Bumstead or Phil Heath or something when I'm in the gym working out. I just do it because, like you said, I know it makes me a better father, and it makes me a better person to be around. And the more the sharper that I am, the way I look at it, the more lives that I can impact around me. And
I love it.
yeah, I mean, I just think you got to exercise. Exercise is one of those things that's extremely important for your mind and for your body. Nobody thinks about it until they're in the hospital bed, or until
Amen
their
to that.
health's taken away from them. Then it becomes, really prevalent how important it is. So,
I've really enjoyed this talk. I've got a few more questions for you as we kind of wind this thing down. I want to know, now, you've matured and you've evolved as an entrepreneur. Like, we don't know what we don't know when we start, right? And we, for me, I'm still a gigantic work in progress. We just celebrated 7 years, and I'm still trying to figure it out, but I'm definitely a lot farther along than I was, right? What are some non-negotiables that you've put in place in your business and your life now that you didn't have in the past that have really helped you scale?
do the hard things first. Like, get them out of the way first. I would say just having an action list, like every morning that you wake up, write down the things that need to get done from, the hardest thing that you want to do the least. Make sure that's the first on the list. That way you get it out of the way. For me, it's kind of like when I go to the gym, not to segue, but like I hate training abs. I hate training calves. So like when I get in there, it's the first thing that I do because I know if I don't do it, it's not going to get done at the end of my workout when I'm tired. So, I mean, it's the same thing in life. I'm just giving you an analogy there. But,
Love it.
making sure you get the hard things done first. So, like, a lot of times, we could, again, fall victim to our mindset. Sometimes we could think we're so good at stuff that we actually don't need to do stuff. And that's not the case. Like, a lot of times, and also, too, like, what got you here is not going to get you there. I hear you say that a lot. So, I mean, you kind of got to be constantly strategizing. You got to be innovative. You got to have ingenuity. Like, you got to be looking at your competition, seeing what they're doing too. Like, do your market research. Don't ever get complacent. Like, complacency kills dreams. So I would say those are like two of the most important things. Is like having an action list. Don't get complacent. Make sure your health and God is a top priority for you. Make sure you have some kind of outlet. It doesn't have to be. Have like an outlet that challenges you mentally, though. It could be reading or it could be critical thinking in some capacity, but like not some things challenge you physically, but like there's not a lot of stuff out here that challenges you mentally. So mentally, you have to actually think and you have to find those things and challenge yourself a little bit. But those are just three things off the top of my head.
I love that. And the thing here, I'll piggyback off that. And I tell, and I'm not trying to sell my product here.
Oh man,
That's why I love
close my
jiu-jitsu.
ears. No, just joking.
Yeah, well, jiu-jitsu. I mean,
Yeah.
it's physically, but it works the mental. You got to use your head so much in jiu-jitsu. That's what I love about jiu-jitsu.
That's a big thing too, because I'll just say, like, I'm not the smartest guy at all. Like, there's people that's far smarter than me. The reason I was good at sales is because I legitimately worked harder than the entire team. Like, they could read the exact same stuff that I read, and they would consume it twice as good. You know what I mean? Like, they just remember it. I have like a very small attention span, so it's very hard for me to retain information. So a lot of times it might take somebody one time to read something and they remember it. And it takes me like 10, 15, 20
Same
times.
here. Same here. I'm right there with you. I can relate to that at a very, very high level. And by the way, ADD, ADHD, it's a superpower. It's a superpower.
Yeah.
They try to tell kids today that it's so bad. Let's give you all. No. It's actually a superpower. You got to learn how to contain it, but it's a definite superpower.
I just wanted to
So
throw
I gotta
that in
ask-
there because I feel like, that's something that's important. I'm sure there's probably some people listening that maybe struggle with that a little bit, especially when it comes to like writing things down. Like, that's something that you almost have to do. It's almost a non-negotiable if you are somebody with like ADHD. Some people put it up here and they never forget it.
I have a legal pad and pen, as I'm showing you.
And neuroscience too says if you write it down, it sticks in your brain. And make sure you write it on a legal pad like you got. Don't type it in your phone electronically because it just doesn't mean the same.
Amen. Amen. All right, I'm going to ask you this. So you've made it this far. Well, what got you here ain't getting it there. So, you got your $10 million company. What's the future look like? What's the ultimate goal of Sunrise Moving and Packing? Like, is there a certain number you're looking to exit? Or is there a certain number you're trying to get to? If you could share, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're trying to get to 20 locations is the goal. $100 million company is what we have envisioned. So that's our 10-year growth plan. So that's just kind of the direction that we want to head in. We want to get more into the long distance sector. So we want to eventually get some tractor trailers on the road, some big 53-foot semis. Right now we got the small 26-foot box trucks. So, and we just want to continue to serve our customers and, offer the best experience that there is out there in the moving industry. There's a lot of different moving companies that people could choose from. So we're grateful that they choose us, and we just want to be the absolute best at what we do. Offer 5-star service from sunrise to sunset, pretty much.
I love that. How can people find you and your company? First of all, start with your company. What's the best way to find your company?
Yep. So I mean, you could find us on Google. You could just Google our website. It's www.sunrisemovingandpacking.com. You can find our business page on Facebook as well. You could find me on Facebook as well. I'm happy to talk with anybody. I'm like the most responsive person ever. I'm the type of person that if you text or you message, it doesn't matter who you are, I will respond to you because I believe that every person matters and everybody deserves an answer. So
I love that. Well, Caleb, it's been really fun chatting with you. It's kind of nice to talk business and not just all jujitsu. So
absolutely.
I'm sure I'll see you at the gym this week still. So, hey, thanks for hanging out. If you would stay in the waiting room, I want to chat with you offline for a minute.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on here. I greatly appreciate it. I'm honored to be, a guest on here. So.
I love sharing stories of those making an impact, my friend. It was an honor and a privilege just to kind of chat with you today. And for those listening, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Humans That Build. This show's designed to share stories from those making a positive impact so you can go out into the world and make a greater impact yourself. Y'all, see you soon. Humans That Build, real people, real work. See you next time.